The Hall of Stars was older than empires, carved into the heart of a hollowed asteroid that drifted in the galactic center. There, beneath vaults of starlight and banners of countless civilizations, the judgment of the Galactic Council fell upon humanity. The chamber echoed with alien tongues, layered voices rumbling like storms. Holographic flames of law and order burned around the dais. Humanity's representatives stood small, fragile shadows among towering figures of scaled, feathered, and chitinous giants. When the decree was spoken, the galaxy held its breath. The species known as humanity, origin world, Earth. Their petition for membership is hereby rejected. Their presence in interstellar affairs is forbidden. Trade is forbidden. Expansion is forbidden. Any violation will be considered rebellion against the order of the galaxy. The judgment echoed like a sentence of death. Humanity, newborn among the stars, was cast out and exile declared before thousands of watching civilizations. And in that silence, humanity made a choice. Not of surrender. Not of despair. But of defiance. Admiral Jonathan Reyes stood rigid at the viewport of the Terran embassy ship, his jaw locked as the shimmering spires of the Council's hall drifted into the distance. His uniform, dark blue with the silver crest of Earth Command, felt heavier than armor. He had fought wars on Earth, wars of nation against nation, and thought he understood humiliation. But this was worse. "They've chained us without firing a shot," Reyes muttered. His reflection stared back at him in the glass, hard eyes, streaks of gray at his temples, a soldier carved by decades of battles. Behind him, Dr. Evelyn Carter adjusted the collar of her civilian coat. Her mind was already calculating, dissecting the implications. A scientist whose brilliance had carried Earth to the stars, Evelyn's eyes burned with sharp intelligence. Chained? No, Jonathan. They've given us clarity. They fear us. They fear what we might become. Reyes turned. Fear? They dismissed us like insects. Michael Grant, the diplomat, pressed his palms against the conference table. A man of calm words and measured tone, his composure was cracking. They dismissed us publicly, yes. But Evelyn's right. They didn't just reject our petition, they banned us. That's not dismissal. That's containment. They don't want humanity to grow. Which means they know we can, Evelyn finished. Her voice was low, almost reverent. Silence hung heavy in the cabin. Outside, alien ships gleamed like blades of silver light, escorting the Terran vessel back toward the jump lane that would spit them into the forgotten spiral arm where Earth lay. Exile. Isolation. Reyes finally spoke, his voice iron. Then we don't beg for a seat at their table. We build our own. The weight of exile. The return to Earth was unlike any homecoming. The skies above the blue planet were no longer filled with hope. Colonies on Mars slowed their expansion. Shipyards on the Moon halted production. The Council had made their decree clear: any violation would draw fire. News broadcasts across Earth showed riots in the streets. Protesters shouted betrayal. Governments faltered under the crushing realization that humanity's dream of joining the galactic community had been shattered before it began. Admiral Reyes stood before the United Earth Assembly in New Geneva, his voice carrying across the chamber. We've been cast out. But I tell you now, this is not the end of humanity's story. This is its beginning. We can bow and wither, or we can rise and claim what is ours. Some delegates shouted him down. Defiance means war, cried one senator. Michael Grant rose beside Reyes, his steady baritone cutting through the noise. War may come regardless. The Council does not fear weaklings, they fear rivals. If we remain small, we remain slaves. If we grow strong, we stand free. The chamber trembled with the clash of voices. But in that moment, a seed was planted. The hidden forge. It began in silence. Dr. Evelyn Carter gathered the brightest minds in hidden laboratories beneath the lunar crust. There, under layers of rock and secrecy, humanity's greatest weapon was born, not a weapon of destruction, but of independence. Starship engines redesigned from scraps of alien technology. weapons reverse-engineered and reshaped with human ingenuity. In the asteroid belt, mining stations expanded deeper into the rock. But behind their industrial facade, they became shipyards, hidden from the Council's scanners. Reyes oversaw the fleets, training soldiers who had once fought under different flags, now united under one. He spoke to them like a father to children who bore the scars of betrayal. We are building in shadows. Every rivet, every circuit, every drop of sweat defies the Council. One day, we'll rise into the light. It was a dangerous game. Council patrols swept the outer systems, searching for signs of defiance. Michael Grant orchestrated misinformation campaigns, feeding false signals, hiding colonies under the guise of abandoned ruins. Humanity was becoming two-faced, a broken species licking its wounds in public, and a secret empire rising in the dark. The first flight. The day finally came. On the far side of the asteroid belt, in a cavernous dock lit by artificial suns, the first fleet stood ready. 10 warships, each forged in defiance of galactic law, gleamed with Terran steel. Their hulls bore no alien insignias, no Council seals. Only one emblem stretched across their sides, a blue sphere, Earth, wrapped in silver wings. Reyes stood at the command deck of the flagship, resolute. His voice carried through every channel, every deck, every soul. Today, we are no longer exiles. Today, humanity takes its first step into sovereignty. The Council told us to kneel. We answer with ships. With fire. With resolve. Engines roared like thunder. The fleet rose from the belt, engines igniting trails of white flame across the void. In silence, they broke free from the shadows, turning their bows toward the stars. Evelyn Carter watched from the science deck, tears pricking her eyes. It's more than ships. It's proof. Proof we are not bound to their judgment. Michael Grant, standing beside her, whispered as if speaking to history itself. The galaxy will remember this day. The day humanity stopped asking permission. The silent declaration. No transmission was sent. No message of war or defiance. The fleet itself was the declaration. In the darkness between stars, the Council's will had been broken. Humanity was no longer bound. But with every kilometer the fleet traveled, one truth weighed heavier on Reyes's shoulders: the Council would not remain blind for long. And when they came, they would come with fire. Reyes stared into the void ahead, his voice a whisper meant only for himself. Let them come. The Resolute drifted like a silent predator across the black sea of stars. Its hull still gleamed with the untouched shine of new steel, but within, its crew already moved with the rhythm of veterans. Humanity's fleet was alive now, no longer blueprints or dreams, it was a heartbeat echoing against the vast silence of the galaxy. Admiral Jonathan Reyes stood at the command table, hands folded behind his back, staring at the holographic map of Sol System and the lines stretching beyond. Tiny blue icons marked hidden colonies: Ceres, Europa, Titan, each one a spark in the growing constellation of Terran defiance. We're spreading too fast, Michael Grant said quietly. His voice held both pride and worry. The Council's patrol routes already cut close to Titan. If they pick up even a whisper. They won't, Dr. Evelyn Carter interrupted, sliding new data across the table. We've developed signal masking algorithms. Our transmissions look like background radiation, indistinguishable from cosmic noise. Unless the Council deploys an entire fleet to sift through the void, they won't see us. Reyes's eyes narrowed. And if they do? Evelyn hesitated, then answered with brutal honesty. Then we'll fight. And we'll see if human steel is sharper than their arrogance. The hidden empire. Humanity's exile had become fertile ground for unity. The fractious governments of Earth, once consumed by politics and rivalry, now fed resources into a single dream. The shipyards beneath the lunar crust grew vast enough to dwarf entire cities. Europa's ice was hollowed out for reactors. Titan's methane seas hid orbital refineries. Children born on Mars spoke not of Earth nations, but of the Terran people. Humanity was changing. The humiliation of the Council's decree had burned away divisions, leaving something harder, sharper, and infinitely more dangerous.
Admiral Reyes toured the colonies in secret, his presence a beacon.
At Ceres Station, miners stood to salute him, their hands still black with dust. On Mars, he walked among engineers who worked 20-hour shifts, their voices hoarse with exhaustion but proud. "We build so our children will never kneel," one woman told him, pressing a grease-stained hand to her chest. Reyes carried those words with him like a banner. The shadow of the Council. But shadows always stretched.
The Galactic Council was not blind.
Whispers reached them, freighters reporting unusual gravitational anomalies near the belt, traders muttering about human colonies that seemed too well supplied.
In the council chambers, alien voices rose in fury.
The scaled Zyrak demanded immediate intervention. The chitinous Vorash called for sanctions harsher than before. Others sneered at the idea that primitive humans could challenge their will. But one voice warned with quiet dread, they were banned, yet they rise.
If left unchecked, they will not simply join our order.
They will seek to replace it. And so, patrol fleets were dispatched.
Silent hunters prowling the edge of Sol, scanning, searching.
The first blood.
The strike came sooner than anyone expected.
It was a cold morning on Europa when alarms screamed across the colony. Council warships had slipped from hyperspace, a patrol of 3 destroyers, their hulls etched with the authority of the galaxy itself. They moved with the confidence of executioners, sweeping their sensors across the ice moon.
Admiral Reyes received the alert aboard the Resolute.
His officers looked to him with sharp fear in their eyes. "They've found us," Evelyn whispered.
Michael Grant's face hardened.
"If we run, they'll broadcast our existence. The Council will descend with fleets."
Reyes's jaw clenched. The choice weighed like iron. If they fought, humanity would reveal its defiance to the galaxy.
If they ran, humanity would be hunted like prey forever. He looked at his crew, at the young helmsman whose hands trembled over the controls, at the officers who waited for his command. He thought of the miners, the engineers, the children who whispered of freedom.
"No more hiding," Reyes said at last. His voice rang like steel. "We fight."
The Resolute's engines flared, and the Terran fleet surged from the belt. 10 warships against 3 Council destroyers. On paper, it was madness. The Council's vessels had centuries of refinement, weapons tested in countless wars. Humanity's ships were unproven, their systems untested in real combat. But humanity had something the Council did not: desperation. The Battle of Europa. The void lit with fire. Council plasma cannons slashed arcs of blue energy, carving across space. The Resolute shuddered as shields flickered under the onslaught. Terran frigates darted in tight formations, their maneuvers sharp and unpredictable, unlike the rigid patterns of Council doctrine.
"Target their engines,"
Reyes barked. "Blind them, then gut them." Terran railguns roared, hurling slugs of dense metal at near relativistic speed. One Council destroyer reeled as its thrusters exploded in a burst of molten flame.
The Resolute pressed the attack, lancing through the chaos with precision strikes.
On the bridge, alarms screamed.
Hull plating ruptured. Crewmen shouted over the din.
But no one faltered. Humanity's soldiers fought with the fury of a species cornered, with the rage of centuries of war carried into the stars.
Within an hour, it was over. 2 Council destroyers lay shattered, drifting as burning husks.
The third fled, limping into hyperspace with half its systems ruined. Cheers erupted across the Resolute. But Reyes did not smile. He stared at the wreckage, at the lives lost on both sides.
He knew what this meant.
"The galaxy knows now," he said quietly. "The game of shadows is finished.
Humanity has drawn blood." The aftermath. News traveled faster than light.
The Council tried to contain it, but stories leaked across trade routes. Rumors whispered of human ships that fought like demons, of a banned species that had shattered a Council patrol.
Some dismissed it as lies.
Others, especially those who had suffered under the Council's heavy hand, listened with awe. On Earth and its colonies, the victory spread like wildfire.
Crowds poured into streets, chanting, weeping, embracing.
The humiliation of exile was gone, replaced with a pride that shook the very foundations of the planet. Michael Grant stood before the United Earth Assembly, his voice ringing with conviction. We were exiled. We were condemned. But today, humanity has proven it will not be chained. We are Terrans. We are free. And we are building not for survival, but for destiny. Evelyn Carter worked day and night, refining weapons, designing new ships, her mind fueled by the fire of victory. Her words to Reyes echoed like prophecy, we've opened the door. Now we must walk through it before the Council slams it shut with fire. The road ahead. In the solitude of his cabin aboard the Resolute, Admiral Reyes poured himself a glass of bourbon from a bottle older than the fleet itself. He drank slowly, staring at the starfield. Humanity had risen from the shadows. But the cost was clear. The Council would not ignore this insult. They would come, not with 3 destroyers, but with legions. Reyes set the glass down, his hand steady. His reflection stared back at him from the viewport, not the face of a soldier, but of something else entirely. An emperor of a people who had never asked for a throne, but who had built one from defiance. He whispered into the quiet, let them come. We'll show them what Terrans are made of. And across the colonies, in hidden shipyards and silent bunkers, humanity prepared. The Forbidden Empire had risen. The Council came with fire. They arrived not as patrols or messengers, but as executioners. A fleet of 200 ships, dreadnoughts and cruisers stretching like a wall of steel across the void, entered the Sol system in a blaze of power. Their declaration was simple, humanity's rebellion ends here. For 3 days, their shadow eclipsed Earth's sun. Council broadcasts filled the skies, demanding surrender. They promised mercy if humanity disarmed. They promised annihilation if humanity resisted. Admiral Jonathan Reyes stood at the center of the Resolute's war room, watching the approaching armada with a soldier's silence. Around him, his officers argued in tense voices. Dr. Evelyn Carter's face was pale, but her eyes burned with restless fire. Michael Grant paced the room like a caged lion. They'll burn Earth to ash, Grant said, his voice rough. If we resist, billions will die. Evelyn slammed her hand against the table. If we surrender, billions will still die slowly, crushed under their chains. We've come too far to bow now. All eyes turned to Reyes. His jaw was stone, his voice low. This is the moment we've been building toward. If we stand for every human born and every human yet to be. If we fall, then we fall as Terrans, not slaves. No one spoke after that. The Council fleet advanced. And humanity prepared for its reckoning. The gathering of Terrans. The colonies responded as one. From Mars, flotillas of corvettes rose like sparks. From Europa and Titan, gunships slipped from icy docks. From the asteroid belt, carriers emerged, their hulls painted with the silver wings of Earth. Ship by ship, they gathered behind the Resolute. Not hundreds, not even dozens of dozens, only 40 ships in total. Against the Council's 200, they were a flicker against a storm. But every ship carried a crew who had built their vessel with their own hands, who had sworn oaths not to governments but to the survival of their species. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge, his officers at their stations. Transmit to the fleet, he ordered. His voice carried into every ship, every cabin, every heart. We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. They believe today will be our end. But I say this, today is the day we prove humanity cannot be erased. They banished us. They tried to cage us. Now we show them the price of underestimating Terrans. Hold fast. Hold true. The stars themselves will remember this day. The transmission ended, leaving only silence. Then across the fleet, voices rose, not in fear, but in defiance. Terrans! 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 The cry echoed into the void. The battle for Earth. The clash was like gods tearing at the fabric of the heavens. Council dreadnoughts unleashed torrents of plasma fire, searing through the black. Human ships danced through the storm, their railguns answering with thunderous streaks of molten metal. The Resolute led the charge, its hull glowing from the strain of shields barely holding against the onslaught.
Reyes barked orders, his voice a steady anchor amid the chaos. Flank them. Hit their carriers before they can deploy fighters.
Terran frigates darted like wolves, targeting engines, cutting through blind spots the Council hadn't thought vulnerable.
Centuries of rigid battle doctrine faltered against human improvisation. Where alien admirals saw disarray, humanity thrived.
But the cost was brutal. On the right flank, the Terran frigate Valiant was torn apart by concentrated fire, her wreckage scattering across Mars's orbit. The gunship Independence rammed a Council cruiser, detonating in a blaze that took both ships with it. Every victory was paid with blood. Evelyn Carter worked feverishly from the science deck, rerouting power, calculating firing solutions, pushing human technology beyond safe limits. Sparks flew around her, but she didn't flinch.
Jonathan! Direct all fire to Grid 7-3. Their Dreadnought's shield harmonics are unstable now. The Resolute and 3 escorts unleashed a barrage.
The Dreadnought shuddered, its shields collapsing in a flash of light before its core detonated in a silent explosion that lit the void. Cheers erupted, but only for a moment. The Council still had numbers.
And humanity was bleeding. The turning point.
The Council commander broadcast across the system, his voice booming from alien throats.
Humans! Your defiance is meaningless. You are ants gnawing at giants. You will fall.
Your Earth will burn. Kneel, and we may spare your ashes.
On Earth's surface, billions listened.
And billions answered in silence, no voice rose to surrender. Instead, across cities, people raised their eyes to the skies, whispering prayers, curses, hopes. Michael Grant stood at the comms, his voice steady as he replied on behalf of all humanity.
We kneel to no one.
This is our world. These are our stars. If you want them, come and take them.
The war raged on.
At last, Evelyn Carter revealed her final gamble. From hidden silos beneath Luna, humanity's secret weapon rose, massive rail platforms, magnetic cannons the size of skyscrapers. They had been built in silence, kept hidden even from most Terran officials. Now they roared to life, hurling projectiles at velocities no ship could endure. The first shot punched through a Council cruiser, cleaving it in two. The second shattered another dreadnought. Panic rippled through the alien fleet. For the first time, they saw humanity not as exiles, but as predators. The fire and the ashes. The battle lasted 16 hours. When it ended, Sol was a graveyard. Wreckage of Council ships drifted in silent ruin, their hulls burning against the stars.
Humanity's fleet was broken, half its ships destroyed, thousands dead. The Resolute limped, scarred and bleeding, but alive. Admiral Reyes stood on its battered bridge, his uniform scorched, his voice hoarse. But when he spoke, it was with the gravity of history. We did not fight for victory. We fought for survival. And we endured. The Council has learned today, humanity cannot be erased. We are Terrans. We are free. And from this day forward, we are an empire born of exile, forged in fire. Across the colonies, survivors wept, cheered, and embraced. The Council had not been destroyed, but they had been humbled. And they would think twice before underestimating Earth again. Months later, in the ruins of the Council's decree, the United Earth Assembly reconvened. There was no debate this time. No hesitation. Michael Grant stood before the Assembly, his words carrying the weight of blood and sacrifice. The Council banned us. They sought to chain us. Instead, they forged us. Today, we proclaim what has already been written in fire, the Terran Empire. Sovereign. Unyielding. Eternal. Thunderous applause shook the chamber. Dr. Evelyn Carter, her hands still scarred from the battle, whispered to Reyes at her side. We were never meant to kneel. This was always our destiny. Reyes did not smile, but his eyes held something harder than joy, sharper than pride. Resolve. He looked toward the stars beyond Earth's skies, where countless worlds awaited. Then let's build it, he said. Let's show them what it means to defy the galaxy.
And so humanity, once exiled, rose crowned in fire, its empire born not from mercy, but from the unyielding defiance of a people who refused to kneel.